Hey, welcome to my Figuring It Out in the Philippines playlist, where I basically talk about everything my husband and I are doing as we figure out how to live abroad. So there are some things that keep us anchored in the United States, and it's not just family, friends, and loved ones. Our financial resources and our medical insurance are definitely tied to the United States, and there's no getting around it. Even though I'm a permanent resident, can I work to make money? Yes, I could. I might have to do some other legal things to be able to do that, but I really think I could work. Number one, as a former Filipino, now as a permanent resident, that I could. I'd have to investigate that. Do I want to? No, I don't want to. So all of my financial resources that I need to survive in the Philippines it's definitely anchored in the United States. This video is going to focus on those type of things and how do I manage that? How do I monitor my financial resources while I'm here? And what exactly it is that I'm doing while I'm here. When I'm thousands of miles away from the brick and mortar banks and credit unions, that does create a lot of anxiety. Before, when I lived in the United States, I just go around the corner, go to my bank and credit union and take care of business. But I can't do that here living in the Philippines. I need to hope that I can reach representatives and figure it out living in the Philippines. So I'm going to start off by saying I'm not an expert in anything. Sometimes in my own life, I question everything because you're doubting, am I making the right decision or not? So anything that I'm saying in this video, make sure you know somebody who knows finances, law, and medical needs, because I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a doctor. However, I'm just a basic person trying to figure out what do I need to do and what are some questions I need to ask, because it gets complicated. It gets seriously complicated of trying to figure out what am I going to do if I can't access my resources or if I can't use my medical insurance, which in the Philippines right now, I can't use my medical insurance. So let me get started. The first thing that you need to do is find your people. Who do you trust? Who do you trust to be able to talk to that's anchored in the United States, who actually live in the United States? Because if you needed somebody to go physically do something for you, who are you going to trust? Now, one way we found our trusted person was every time we said things like, we're moving to the Philippines, we're getting rid of all of our stuff, I'm working on my dual citizenship. Based on the reaction of those family, friends, and loved ones, determined how much we were going to continue that conversation of living in the Philippines. Most people are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Their level of panic basically meant, I can't really talk to you about certain things, to be honest with you. However, we had one family that's like, oh my gosh, you're moving to the Philippines. That is so exciting. And we knew they were our people. We knew we could talk to them about anything openly without worrying about all the questions. Now, it is fine to talk to somebody who has a lot of reservations about their family, their sister, their friend, their daughter, all of it, moving to another country. I get that. I'm ready for all of those statements. And I will say, having lived here now over a year, more conversations have been had since we've arrived here. However, having those conversations before we even show up is another story, and that takes a little bit of finesse to be able to talk about certain things. And this video is going to be some of the sketchy things. It's not sketchy. Some of the things that I know that I still have some family, friends, and loved ones who are struggling with the fact that I'm even here. And I prefer having the type of conversations in person rather than on the phone. Or maybe I could just have it on video, but there are still people that I don't think are ready to hear some of the things that I'm going to mention in this video. So let's just get on with it, and it'll work itself out. In this video, this is me in real time trying to figure out how do I kind of navigate and meander. I go through my notes, I know things that I want to talk about, but I'm now coming to the forefront of my mind thinking about those people that I can't talk about certain things with because their level of anxiety of me living in another country comes to the surface, and then we never talk about the things that need to be discussed, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so I think I already mentioned I'm not an expert, barely an expert in my own life. So make sure you talk to somebody who is an expert. I've mentioned this before, so just do that. Obviously, find your trusted people, figure out who they are, because these are conversations you're going to need to have. So let's get started. One of the things you want to talk to them about is actually 3 things, but it could be 1. Oh my gosh, 4 things. I just thought of another one. This is why I use notes, because I have an idea what I want to talk about, but this keeps me focused. Talking about a living will, a living trust, an actual will, and your burial plans. Now, you definitely want to talk to a lawyer about what to do in regards to those, at least 3 of those things: a living will, a living trust, and an actual will. I know there are certain people family, friends, and loved ones that I cannot talk to about this yet, again, because they're still reeling over the fact that I'm just living here. We're just kind of getting past that. And for some of them, they're not past that. They haven't elevated up to the fact like, oh wow, you have permanent residency. You're actually living there. Yes, we are. Now, when it comes to those very specific things that you need to discuss, living will, living trust, an actual will, or burial plans, understand what each of them mean. So my husband and I don't have a living trust because we really don't have a lot of assets. We don't own property yet. We don't own a home in either country. So we don't really have anything that's going to need, that matters for a living trust. But we do have a living will. And there's a difference between a living will and a living trust. So I will be using my notes for this because there are some basic information that at least I can share that I have a basic knowledge of, even though we have a living will, but again, refer to a lawyer. So a living will is basically where we designated a person that's going to take care of things if, like, I'm not able to communicate my medical needs. So, for example, my husband is my designated person, and we also have shared with one of his childhood friends our living will, so that if something happens to him, at least they know what's up, right? So a living will basically is effective as soon as you communicate your wishes, and if there's any financial backing that's required that's stated within the living will, once that's established, okay? And it's really a way to make sure that you have a voice if something happens to you medically. Like if you have a medical emergency, if because of an accident, because somehow you're in a vegetative state, whatever it might be, you're unable to communicate what you want the doctors to do in regards to your medical health, a living will is going to take care of that. I think that's the main thing when it comes to the living will. I'm trying right now in my head, I'm thinking of all the things that it wanted, all the information in regards that it wanted. How are we going to contact this designated person or people in regards to what happens to you? Okay, so research a living will. The other thing would be a living trust. Now, living trust is something that I know my husband has talked to his mom about and has been working on that. And that can happen while the person is living and after death. And there's some benefits from that. And it's also super complicated, so I'm like the last person you should get advice in regards to that. But referring to my notes, it does become effective immediately upon signing and when funding is established. Avoids probate. That's the really big thing. And it also ensures that your designated person can distribute whatever your assets after your death. So you want to know more information, because I don't have a living trust. Do your research on that one. A will, I mean, once you start getting yourself established, you have a job and all of those things, you honestly should just have a will to figure out what goes where. I mean, down to, it's not just for a house. It's all of those little things when it comes to maybe a special piece of jewelry, for example, or money that you actually still have in the bank. What do you want? Your investments, what's going to happen to all of that? Some things are already predetermined because you already figured out your beneficiaries, but some things it's not so cut and dry. I know when I lived in the United States, I had a little book that I bought, and it was so helpful because if something did happen to me, when you found that book, when you had access to that book, it said, I listed all of those things in addition to where the will was, in addition to where I lived. If you needed the keys to access certain things, like we have a storage unit. Where's the keys to the storage unit so you can access all of our other stuff? We live in the Philippines. There's no way I'm getting to the storage unit right now that has some of our stuff. We still need to figure out how to get that crap over here. But my husband's childhood friend has a key. So if there's an emergency and he needs to get to it, or like I receive emails periodically from the storage unit, could you go over there and check to see what's going on? Something happened. We were just notified from the storage unit that something they needed some attention. That person could represent us. Make sure those are things that you've already discussed before you even leave. And if you haven't, then start having that conversation now. Now, if you're just on vacation and you're just going to be here for 6 months, then maybe everything that I'm talking about doesn't pertain to you, but maybe it should. Honestly, maybe it should. That's just me throwing it out there. The other big thing is burial plans. Now, I don't think I've told any of my family about my burial plans. My husband knows. I think I have a few friends that know. But I don't think I've talked to any of my family about that. And now that I'm thinking about this, I'm trying to think if I have. I'm going to have to check with my sister and my dad. Those would be the main two people I would want them to know. I can't think of thinking in real time, did I have this conversation? And I don't think I did. So I think I'm gonna have to have that conversation like soon, now that I've done this video. And if I haven't, the other thing, I have not told many family, friends, and loved ones that I even have a YouTube channel. So maybe through this video, they'll know this is going to be a conversation that I might talk to you about. Okay, you don't need to see me thinking, you don't need to see the smoke right now while I'm thinking about how this is going to happen, but okay, I'll have that conversation, I promise. I'm telling you guys to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to tell more people because I'm living abroad. It's time to do it. They now know I'm living here. I'm a permanent resident. I can have this conversation now. Okay, the other things that because we are anchored in the United States, there are certain things that you definitely need to do besides those 4 things that I just mentioned. Get a VPN. Now, I'll be honest, we did not get a VPN until we actually came to the Philippines, and we did it within 2 weeks of being here. So grateful. We have NordVPN, virtual private network, and one of the big reasons why is because if I want to access information about my pension, I need to make sure that I'm located in the United States. I can't get onto the state's website to access my pension from the Philippines. It just won't let me. No, I can access my bank, not a problem. I can be anywhere in the world. But when it comes to my pension, when it comes to checking my Social Security, I can't. So get a VPN, very important, especially if you're living abroad. Even if you're just vacationing, I honestly think I should have had one even while I was living in the United States sometimes. I did have my credit union compromised, and that should have been my clue. Get one, and I didn't, and now I'm so glad that I did. But again, I'm just figuring it out. So getting a VPN is super important. That way I can use that whenever I'm monitoring my bank statements, credit union, my investments, all of that. I have a VPN that's basically protecting me. Now, I have talked about this before we left, contacting our banks and credit unions, any credit cards, any financial institutions, businesses, to make sure, how do we want them to communicate with us? Do they even know that I'm out of the country? I make sure I notify them every 6 months, our status, where we are, we're still traveling. Just to make sure that they're aware, because I get text messages saying, hey, you just made a purchase in the Philippines. If this isn't you, which I appreciate, I make sure that I want those messages. I am going to do a video eventually because I think about fraudulent purchases, because I made a huge mistake one time, and I will have to do a video about that because I can't access one of my credit cards anymore because of a mistake that I made. That's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that another time. In addition to being able to communicate with your financial institutions, even your medical health insurance company, how are they going to send things to you? Here's an example. So now I'm going to move on to like medical insurance. When there's something happening, like I already know my medical insurance is not automatically accepted at right now any clinic or any hospital that I have visited. I need to get some paperwork. I need to fill out the paperwork. I need to make sure the doctor fills out the paperwork. I need to make sure that I'm approved for certain medical services before anything happens to me. I need to make sure I know I have all of the access numbers because it's a 24/7. We're 13 hours difference. I need to make sure when I do file a claim, how am I going to get refunded, found out? I don't get direct deposit. Why they don't do direct deposit, I don't know, but they don't. Instead, if I get any type of medical refund, they mail it to me, and they will not mail it to the Philippines. If they mailed it to the Philippines, wouldn't that be nice? I'll pay DHL. You can mail it to me. I'll pay for that. They won't do it. They'll only mail it to a United States address. So that is another reason why you need to talk to your family, friends, and loved ones and really pick your trusted person, because they're going to receive that check. Now, that person can mail it to us. I can get it, in 2 weeks to 3 months, or use a delivery service. We use DHL. And then once I receive that refund check, then I have, for my credit union or my bank, I can take a photo of it and do a direct deposit that way. Double check. Can you do that with your bank or credit union? So there are a lot of things that I know 2025, my husband and I have to figure out how we're going to handle medical insurance. Do we have a doctor? We do not have a family doctor. Do you need a family doctor while you're here? No. We've had a number of medical issues, and we've been able to handle them without any problems. Going to the dentist here in Makati, it cost about $45 to get our teeth cleaned. In the United States, we just paid it out of pocket. There's no way I'm going to get a refund on that. We'll just pay it out of pocket. I already have it earmarked in our budget. It's within our budget to get our teeth cleaned. That's not any big deal. I'm just used to insurance being able to take care of it. But we can pay for that because it's affordable. Medical needs that's actually affordable, which we love. However, it's much cheaper in Lipa. So I've checked, it's 600 pesos to 1,000 pesos to get our teeth cleaned. Less than 20 bucks. I'm not going through all the paperwork just to get a refund for something that's less than $20. I'm not going to do it. I'll have to do another video when it comes to our medical care, because I've had to go to a medical clinic. We've had, my husband had to go to a dermatologist. We've had to get medication. So I'll do a future video on that. I'll have to make a note to myself to start figuring out what are all the things that I want to share in regards to that. But figure out your medical insurance. Does it apply? Doesn't it? We have a friend that's down the street, a neighbor friend that's down the street, that his medical insurance is accepted. I went to see because they do accept my medical insurance. It's just that my medical insurance didn't start with an R. It starts with an M. So I have to contact my medical insurance and find out, what can I do to make sure that it's accepted over here, which I've already done. They mentioned a place in Batangas. We were feeling best to see if we could maybe use the same hospital as our neighbor friend, which we found out we can't. So now we have to go to Batangas. But anyway, again, that's going to be another video. Future videos on stuff like that. Now that we're here, because of the VPN, I check my credit score. No, your credit score means nothing in the Philippines. Nothing. I just talked to my dad about this because it was super important for me to retire. There are certain things that needed to be in place. I retired in 2021 at the age of 54. Certain things had to be in place. Number one, my investments had to be a certain way, certain level. My savings, and I'm not talking about emergency fund savings, I'm talking about retirement savings, and I having a plan of what retirement was going to look like for me. So I had a retirement savings, again, separate from emergency fund, and separate from retirement investments also. Why I just did that, I don't know. I was just thinking, why did I just do that? Toot, toot, toot. Anyway, because people don't think about, you need money with a transition between being a person who's employed to a person who's not employed and now having to make sure you're on a limited budget. I didn't get paid a lot as a teacher, but I will tell you, as a teacher, I paid my future self first because I knew I was only going to get a third of what my income was going to be. So for my salary and then retirement, a third. That's how I calculated. So from 24 all the way until I retired, I always paid my future self first in preparation for that, because my goal was, I put in my 30 years, I get my pension, I was going to be retired. So making sure I had retirement savings, retirement investments, and a credit score over 800. And here's the reason why. Let's circle back to, why do you even care about your credit score in the Philippines? Because if it hit the fan and I need to go back to the United States, my credit score is going to make sure if I need to buy a car, I can buy a car. If I need to buy a house, I can buy a house. I have purchased a car over the phone before. Not a problem. I've gone, and my husband have driven. We lived in Detroit at the time, and we drove to Ohio. And just while we're in the car, took care of, if we like this car, we were taking care of everything that needed to be addressed with our bank and credit union and insurance on the phone while we're in the car driving to Ohio, because we found a car we wanted to buy. And then once we got there, he drove his car and I drove the new car back to Detroit. That's why you need a good credit score. And why do you need it while we're living in the Philippines? Because we want that same type of treatment if we have to go back to the United States. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I do know that I'm going to be prepared for tomorrow. That's super important. We check our pension, investments, Social Security. I don't even collect Social Security. I'm not going to collect my Social Security until I'm 62. Unless things change with the government, yes, I'm going to collect it early. Do I think that I have some medical need that I'm not going to live long enough to wait until it matures? No. I want my money now. Why? Because I found a savings account where I can get 4% to 5% interest, and I can have my money work for me using my investments rather than the government hang on to my money. So yeah, I'm checking my Social Security on a quarterly basis. Every time we make a purchase, I check my banking statements, my credit cards, my credit union. I do that. My investments, I check, well, our daily investments, we watch how the money moves. On some investments, my retirement investments, I check that maybe quarterly. Sometimes every just 6 months, because it's my retirement investments. That doesn't change as often or as frequently as like our daily investments or me making a purchase at SM Hypermarket, for example. So there's some things that I check daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or every 6 months. Having a VPN is very helpful in all of that. So that just gets us circling back to what I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to think, just checking my notes. Make sure you pay your taxes. I think that's really the final thing I want to say on all of this. Make sure you pay your taxes. And I'll do a video when it's closer to tax season, which is closer to tax season, like next month, we're going to be talking about it. What are you going to do? I know I've talked about it a little bit in a previous video, but if you didn't take care of this before leaving the United States, how are you going to figure it out while you're living in the Philippines? Now, One thing I do need to research is there something through the United States Embassy that will assist expats? I don't know. I don't know, but that's a good question. If anyone does know, write in the comments, because I would learn. I would love to learn anything else, other information of what I could do to maybe be able to pay my taxes while I'm here. Now, we have an accountant, so we do have it figured out. But if there's something in case that accountant no longer is our accountant, what's our plan B? I believe in always having a plan B all the way to a plan Z. So I guess that's something else I need to research. We're still researching on our medical insurance and how that, doctors and things like that. Now that we live in Lipa, we did kind of have it figured out while we were living in Makati, but now that we're in Lipa City, we still have to figure that out. But there's a number of things that I want to do to have a future video about. And some of them, paying taxes might be it. What happens with fraudulent purchases, things that we did, things that happened to us. If your phone is stolen, renewing your driver's license, and getting out of jury duty. Those are some future videos, because all of those things keep us anchored in the United States. And I think they're super important to discuss, but I also think they're separate topics. And this is getting too long. So thank you so much for listening, hanging out. I really do appreciate it. And I will catch you later. Bye.